Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to embroider the Portuguese knotted stem stitch. Now this is a beautiful stitch that creates a very rope-like appearance. It's a little complicated, but it's definitely worth it to have in your repertoire. So let's get started. So here's the Portuguese stem stitch. It's a series of knots and loops, and if you look closely, you'll see little chains essentially in between each of the stitches. It looks very complex, but it's just a matter of getting the right stitch. So it's all based on the stem stitch. So that if you remember, the stem stitch is where you create a stitch, keeping your loop down close to you, and then you come up before you pull that loop taut, usually in the center or so. You can also come up at any point, but it's pretty much this, and then you'll pull that loop taut. But for the Portuguese stem stitch, we're going to modify it slightly. We're going to come up very close to the edge here, to the closest area that we started our stitch. So I'm just leaving a little bit, maybe a needle's worth of width. And then I'm going to come up and pull this taut. Again, my loop is always near me. I'm going to bring my needle in between that area. So if my stitch, if I was to pull this straight down, is divided 3/4 this way and 1/4 this way, I want my needle to come up on the quarter side, on the smallest side. And I'm going to pull a knot, and I'm going to do that twice. I'm just really wrapping it, not even pulling it. I'm not going through the fabric. I'm just weaving through the thread. I'm just weaving through the thread. So that's my first stitch. Now once I complete my 2 wraps, I'm going to come over here and make another stem stitch, keeping my loop of my thread facing me. I'm also going to come up very close to the edge of that stitch, and I can even go close enough to touch it. And I'm going to pull it up. And now I'm going to wrap through both stitches, the stitch I made previously and the stitch I currently put in. So I'm wrapping once, and then I'm wrapping twice. And so now I'm catching all my stitches together, my previous 2 stitches. And I have cute little knots here. I'll make another stem stitch, come up touching that piece, pull that snug, and then I go through the previous stitch as well as the stitch I just made, wrapping it twice. And you can see the knots are forming a beautiful pattern. Continue with my next stitch, the loop facing me. Bring my stitch up, pull it snug, and then stitch through both of these, wrapping it twice. And making another stitch. You can carry this on as long as you want. Now for my last stitch, when I'm getting ready to end it, I'm going to do my 2 wraps. And just stitch down over that area we've already created that stitch. And then I'll just knot it on the back. Now if you look closely at these stitches, you can see that there's kind of a little bit of a chain and a knot, and a chain and a knot. And it's a beautiful, intricate stitch. This stitch is great for outlining shapes. It has a beautiful texture and nice rounded, almost little scalloped edges. So I want to use it right over here on this little edge. I'm using 3364. So to start with, I'm going to just pull back this little trim, and I'm going to start right here because I want the beginning of the stitch hidden by the trim. I'm going to really work my way in. And I make my first stitch, keeping my loop down by me, coming up very close to my first stitch, and then I'm going to go in there twice. Then I carry on to my next stitch, coming up very close to where I ended my previous stitch, and then I go in there twice, wrapping it around. You don't want to go through the fabric, just underneath the thread. And I'll continue this the length of this piece. And so there I have the completed Portuguese stem stitch. So that's how I stitch the Portuguese knotted stem stitch. It's a beautiful stitch. It creates that rope-like dimension, and it's fantastic for outlining projects. I really liked using it on my quilt block. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like behind-the-scenes footage, as well as access to a slow stitching library for members only, please consider becoming a member of my channel. Thank you for joining me today.